Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, it is raining. That's kind of huge for us in California, especially considering how little we've been getting lately. And I guess I can look at these later. I've been poking through UI stuff. While I'm totally happy with most of the UI I have, there's a few elements I'd like to add on. It's a little difficult to find elements that match, so I've been looking at entire sets that match. But that said, we'll actually move on and actually get to the part that I want to do today, which is lockpicking. Kind of that weird thing that in most games turns into a mini game. Probably is going to be a mini game in this one. Actually, it definitely is going to be a mini game in this one. Also, you'll note that I've managed to create a somewhat matching terrain set, finally. I've got some more work to do on it, some stuff to clean up. Obviously, it's not in a final state, but it looks a lot better than it did before, where you kind of looked off into space and you couldn't see, like, you'd see everything else, and it would just, what the heck is that? I just have this, like, random tree spike? One sec, sorry, what is this? Not what I meant to do. There we go. Tree spike, what are you? You are a tree without leaves. And poorly done at that. Okay. I'm not going to worry about it a ton, but that was weird. Alright, anyway, back to where we were. So one thing to note, it's nice, it's a simple solution, but it looks like, except for the floating tree off in the distance. I can clean that one up. But yeah, aside from that, it actually looks a little more forest-like, and like almost decently forest-like. Now you'll note I still have some random spots that are showing a decent amount of graphical problems. Also, some trees don't look quite like the others. I need to go through and clean those up manually. I created a bunch of trees using a certain style, and then the plugin I was using broke the prefab connection, and since it's a little difficult to replace those, at least not without writing a script for it all, it's mostly been just a matter of doing it all by hand. But it looks a lot better. Ooh. And I can get into fights, apparently. I thought I'd turn that off, but I guess not. That's fine. So yeah, there was some decent progress made in that direction. Let's just take this tile, get rid of it, since the ground kind of fills in for itself, especially over here. In fact, all these floor 8s should be... I should be able to rip out all the floor 8s. Now, watch me do this and then instantly regret it. This edge is not particularly great looking, but not the end of the world. Okay. So I've still got some spots over there to clean up. Yeah, floor 8 is essentially, it was previously just a filler for a bunch of empty space. Now that I've got the ground kind of blanketing everything, I can sit here and delete all these without much trouble. I'm not going to sit here and go through all of it right now. I'm just going to get the worst. I see some large chunks of it floating around, so I'm just going to get rid of it there. Here's another large chunk of the floor 8 stuff. Some of it I will need to put back, specifically because floor 8 is useful for... it's useful for covering up certain spots that I don't like. You'll note... Ooh. Some Z fighting going on there. You'll note that, for instance, if I get rid of these, that now this edge shows, and I don't want that to actually be the case, so I'm going to leave those in. And there's a bunch more I need to actually put down, because you'll note that, actually, here I seem to have even failed a little bit. Let's fix that. There are spots where the terrain doesn't quite make all the gaps perfectly fit, and because it doesn't make them all quite match, we want to make sure that that gets taken care of. Okay, so the issue being I have to do that, I suppose. There we go. And you'll note that doing that creates this kind of divot back here that is a little difficult to handle. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely is more work than, say, just having it like sync up and tie in perfectly. It's not the end of the world. It just means that it's going to take a little effort to clean that up afterwards. But that's not what we're doing today. And, oh. Okay. I watched my camera go on the fritz for a little bit, and suddenly it's like, okay. Oh, we're good again. Moving on. Alright, so, that taken care of. Let's get to what I actually want to work on today. And that is this door. When you run up to it, and it says locked, we have a rogue in the party. He should be able to at least attempt to open the door. And we need to figure out how we're going to do that. The idea I had in mind was a little minigame, essentially something that puts some bars up and says, okay, you have to time your unlocking with a certain bar that's bouncing around all over the place. And you're trying to make sure it's past a certain difficulty level. Let me start in, and we'll see how far we get. But, yeah, we'll see. This shouldn't be too crazy. Prefabs. Alright, so I don't want to do a new window, specifically, because new windows, for me, scream something that is self-contained. I guess we could do something self-contained. Why don't we do it in a window? I like the idea of self-contained pieces so that we can modularize each of them. And then, as we make a pick pocket window. Or not pickpocket, sorry, lockpicking window. There we go. Words. I apparently am failing at them this morning. Mental's asking, are you planning on leaving the background around the game area? Some of it yes, some of it no. Obviously, right now it's this giant flat plane, but what I can do is delete that tree that's floating in midair. Are there any others of those? I thought I had care of them. Okay, I think I got them all. What I could do, though, is I could take this and I could morph it and shape it since it's the Unity basic terrain. And I can use that to generate mountains and cool-looking things off in the distance. Also, you'll note that my skybox is pretty frickin' bland right now. And eventually, I will go out there, find myself a good, pretty skybox that is still dynamic enough to have the sun in the sky. And we'll kind of handle it from there. Man, it is really going out there. Although it doesn't look like you guys can hear it. My mic seems to be finally tuned to just about the right level so that you guys can't hear a ton of background noise. Just some of it. What's weird for me is the fact that you can clearly see, A, you can see some Z fighting. B, you can clearly see this edge over here. But this edge over here is not so obvious. In fact, it's pretty friggin' hard to see. Huh. Okay, dog. Oh. Just trying to make sure the dog doesn't bark because he's kind of on alert. Rain is not something we're exactly used to here in California. And because we're not exactly used to it, that means that he's a little on edge, to put it lightly. Alright, so we have, whoops, I created something while in play mode. Something to keep in mind whenever you work with Unity is that if you ever create something while in play mode and then you stop play mode, it tends to delete 90% of your changes unless it's a change to an already existing asset file, in which case it keeps it. So I seem to have at least alleviated the encoding off of there. Looks like it brought me back to something reasonable. I can at least see things moving again. I might leave it here, if only because Unity is probably going to do this again, and I'd really rather it not, but since it's going to anyway, let's see, does that help if I turn all of that off? Okay. I think I managed to find the off button for that crap, because that was annoying. And I actually don't see a huge difference in the look, so I think we're good. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I was wondering what was going on. And thanks, Russian Sky, for pointing me to the GPU. I didn't think about that. You were like, oh yeah, no, just switch the codec. I'm like, no, it's not a codec problem. Oh, but it could be resolved by having the codec actually be a thing. Alright, now there we go. So there's our scroll bar that has our abilities set into it. I'm gonna make this thing pretty friggin' huge because it's a mini game, right? It clearly is not gonna be terribly great if we go through and like have a tiny little bar that you can't hardly see. So there's our difficulty. It might be worth it, except that Unity keeps starting and stopping the processes. I have a bad feeling I'd have to catch each of the processes as they're being started and running them from there, and that's just not, that wouldn't work out terribly well in my favor, I think. I honestly haven't tried. I haven't even run into this until now. I didn't realize that Unity was so happy to just gobble up all the system resources if it could. Kind of put that in another strike box against Unity. But I'll also fight with it later. So let's see, I'm hunting for not that. Let's see here. Where's that scroll bar background? Is it this thing? There we go. I wanted something a little darker just to make it obvious what's going on here. So there's our difficulty bar, or we'll call it the ability scroll bar. And I'm just going to dump that on the main window for now. Then we have another piece of information we need to convey. That is our difficulty. It's not a slider, but it's a pointer. Essentially, what we're trying to do is say, hey, look, we know that somewhere along here is going to be our, ooh, I see a drop down arrow. I actually kind of like that. All we have to do is flip it over. Okay, wrong flip. And 180. Yeah, it kind of does that. It does things to spite me, I swear. Guys, it's out to get me. It's not paranoia if they're actually out to get you, is it? Anyway, let's get a outline around it in white, just so we can make sure we can see it. Otherwise, it'd be a little weird. I can't help but notice that. Interesting. I can set the effect to darker, but I can't do lighter. My guess is that they're doing just a simple color change on the additional draws. Not exactly helpful. Is there any other image here I can use? Have the sword pointing at it or something? Let's see if our UI has anything good that we can poke at here. I've been messing with a lot of stuff recently, and you can see Unity has been generating weird aspects of terrain and other crazy stuff for me to try and handle. Whatever, I'll clean it all up later. It's just a lot of cleanup to do, unfortunately. Here's our UI. So I have a checkbox. That's not really what I'm hunting for, though. Yeah, I'm not really seeing what I'm looking for. Looking for some kind of arrow. I know I've definitely had something like that in the past, or I thought I had, but apparently I don't. Let's see if my scratch folder has anything for me. A star. Could actually use that as my, like, hey, pass this point and you'll get it. Let's just do that for now. Stars, yay! Holy heck. No. Sprite. There we go. Much better. No mip maps. That'll be fine. So our difficulty pointer is not a drop-down arrow. It is actually an upside-down star, which is not actually upside down anymore. There we go. Tiny little star. Kind of adorable. Oh, come on. It's like not letting me drag it. Really? Really, Unity? Is that how we're gonna be today? I mean, yeah, I guess I should expect that, but still. There we go. Okay, and we can remove the outline. That's not really necessary anymore. If I wanted to keep it, it might. It doesn't look terrible, but it's also not necessary. So, get that right up against our board. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually end up... Yeah, let's do that. I like that better. Parenting it to the slider actually allows us to have it be able to move along the slider's point using the anchors if we wanted to. So that's something I'll try and keep in mind when I'm working on this. It would be nice to have something like that attached so that we can say, oh, if we want it, for example, if we want it at the very beginning, we can set its x to 0 and it'll be there. Or we could set it to 1 and it'll be there. Or, the most obvious one, set it to 0.5 and there it is. It's a very easy way to control where along that bar the star is located. And that'll very easily allow us to adjust that. So if we want to say, oh, it's 3/4 of your skill, or it's, you know, higher than your skill could ever be, then we can go through and set it to that value. So we need a script. Run this whole thing. This will be our lockpicking window script, I think, is what I... Let's see, I named you character window, so yeah, lockpicking window. Naming the script after the object we're attaching it to, not the end of the world in this case. And while it opens up Visual Studio, while it beats me to opening up Visual Studio, I'm going to add a cancel button here real quick. Just so we can stop attempting it. Should we, you know, decide that it's kind of a fruitless effort at some point. There we go. Wow, what is this thing with not letting me, like, drag anything into place? Like Unity's drag and drop just kind of went haywire on me. Oh well. Doing it by hand is not the worst thing in the world. Not the greatest thing in the world either, to be completely honest. But, the plight of a game programmer, right? I get to have fun doing my job, God forbid. Sometimes, every once in a while, I have to fight with things as well. Okay. Cancel button. And this will have a pretty easy tie-in to our lockpicking window. We'll probably just have a cancel button that will just bring us back to the game state. Ooh, we need to figure out a way to get to the lockpicking window. I didn't even think about that. Huh. I'll have to consider that. Okay, so lockpicking window. And more specifically, actually, now that I think about it, a lockpicking difficulty as well. So, for this navigation blocker, we have an unlock code, we have all this other stuff attached to it. I'm kind of tempted to keep attaching more things to it, specifically because I'm trying to think of other things you would lockpick. I guess you would lockpick a chest. But mostly it's doors and windows and things. Navigational blockers are going to be one of the primary uses for doors and windows. Specifically ones that you can lockpick. So I'm kind of tempted. You know, for now, let's just do this. So, if the door is pickable, and in the case that it is, we have the pick difficulty, and the, let's see, we have the difficulty and the attempt, or not the attempt count, the tumbler count. Right? You're gonna have to do this little mini game a number of times equal to the number of tumblers that you're trying to undo. Let's toss some headers in here, just to make it easier for me to remember what's where. Herder, the Hodor of headers. Wow. Come on. There we go. Let's find that door. I know it's not too far from the end. Nope, that's a scripted fight that actually I don't want to do right now, because that demon kicks the snot out of me every time I accidentally walk into him. And what's funny is I fight him every time as if this were some, like, thing that was not a bad idea. Okay. Pickable, yes. The pick difficulty, I'll say is 12. And there will be 3 tumblers. Not bad. I can't help but note because these are all changed, or these are all non-default values, that it's putting this all in bold. It's making me wonder if, like, Unity's having a little bit of a heart attack on me. I've had it happen before and had to restart my computer, or also restarting my just the Unity instance might also be helpful. Makes me wonder what's causing it to have this kind of failure of code. Granted, 5.3 is coming out soon, so we should at least be getting that at some point in the near future. That'll be cool. Eventually I want some kind of Tumblr template. For now, I don't actually care. There's not going to be a well, actually there is going to be a per frame, isn't there? Okay. So how's this going to work? We have a cancel button. We need another button. That is going to be our pick button. We're just going to raise it up slightly from where the other button is. Oh, right. I don't want it so high because I just realized that if I put it up too high, it's actually going to get in the way of the star. So let's not have it that high, and let's shift the cancel button somewhere else. Specifically, dang it. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Bring it there. And then we'll get our pick button, who should actually say pick lock. Because, you know, that would make sense. No, that's not the button I'm looking for. There we go. Since I'm in here, may as well switch the fonts around to the right ones. Kind of nice not having to go back to it later, hunt it down, figure out, okay, you're in this window and you're over here and I need to do this. Now, let's just get it done right away. Increase font size a little, make it a little readable. There we go. That looks a lot better. Let's get that cancel button a little more out of the way. There we go. Cool. So we've got a pick lock and a cancel. We've got our skill bar, which we should probably do a couple things to. One, let's get it to match the art style, because that just doesn't take a ton of extra work right now. Let's see here. Sliding area. Do I not have a separate? I don't have a separate piece for that. Okay. Here's our handle. Let's just swap that out. And that handle does not want to update. Even though I've totally changed the values for it. Also, I love how it disappears the moment I do that. There. Don't want to futz with it. I'm just going to shift its sort order. Be done with it. There we go. Even though I have to hit play to readjust it, that's fine. What we're going to end up with at this point now is we need the bar to start popping back and forth, and we need to find some way to define essentially the current skill and the maximum skill, and then generate random values in there and smooth them ever so slightly. Not a ton, but we want to smooth them enough that it's not so erratic that the player feels like it's completely random. So first off, we know that there's going to be some kind of difficulty. Let's actually just hook this up manually for now. So we need a navigation blocker, and that blocker is going to have the information we need in it, specifically what the target difficulty is going to be. So for us, I think we said that target difficulty was 12. Let's gain us a little room back in terms of there it is. Okay. And yeah. So I grab this navigation blocker and I hand it to the lockpicking window. Not what I meant. I like how it added a copy of the navigational blocker to it. Not what I meant at all. Really? Did I not find it again? Did it like delete it off of my previous node? Because that's what it looks like it did. Yeah, it totally did. Wow. That's impressive, Unity. Destructive handling of changes. Not a good thing to ever do. Okay, cool. I was able to undo enough, luckily, to regenerate this piece of information. Although I can't help but notice that my lockpicking window script is now gone. That or I just never put it there. That's also a major possibility. I know I give Unity a lot of crap right now, but the big thing is that some of it is definitely my fault, and some of it is also not entirely my fault, but some of it is either misunderstanding or poor documentation, or actually is just straight up Unity's fault. Alright. So, once again, I'm just going to put a little marker on this grid node so it's easy to find. And then grab my lockpicking window, grab the grid node in question, and drag it to there. Sweet. So the blocker is going to give us what we need in terms of difficulty and number of tries that we should attempt before the game says a success or fail state. So here's the other part of information that I don't quite have that I probably should put together, is that there's going to be a player character. And this is the lock picker. This one's going to be a little easier to find, luckily, because my party is laid out in a somewhat unceremonious manner. Very easy to hunt down who is who in the party. And I think there's a lockpicking skill I should be able... Yeah, he's already got some lockpicking skill, so I don't even need... I don't even need to mess with this too much. So this is going to generate essentially what our highest and lowest values are. So for somebody who has a skill of 6, let's see here. So that means that their mid-range is going to be 6. I actually might have to lower the difficulty on the lockpicking. Let's make it something like, I don't know. So with 6, the highest he can roll is a 12. And the lowest he can roll, obviously, is a 0 at pretty much any given time. If we wanted to, we could say between 6 and 12 is his skill range. So let's just make that 10. Yeah, that should be fine. Panda with the shotgun thinks the P looks like a D in the pick lock button. Not really, though. I do have to be careful of stuff like that. But I don't know if it looks like it enough that I'm going to go out of my way to change it. Pick lock. Yeah, no, don't care enough. Looks fine to me. We'll see, but I don't think it's a huge issue. It is just a matter of the font stylizing, making the loop on the P look a little larger. Alright, so we have our minimum and maximum, which, why don't we just calculate those once, and then we'll take care of that at the end. When we say, I want to actually oscillate between this range. So here's our minimum skill level or our minimum skill value. And our max skill value. Actually, don't need to use the whole minimum and maximum. Min and max is good enough. There we go. So the minimum skill value is going to be the lockpicker's skills. And we're going to go for the lockpick skill. And this times 2 is going to be our maximum skill. Is there anything else I really need out of this? Also, why is this complaining? Oh. It actually makes me wonder if I wrote a... Yeah, I did. Get skill. I wrote a getter to help me out. I may as well use it. There we go. So there's our minimum and maximum. Let's see. So we need to set the stars. We can either set the stars anchors or just set its position. I'm always kind of iffy on either method because both of them use kind of sketchy details of how Unity works. Let's just try the anchors first because I feel like that should honestly be the best way to do it. We're doing essentially a reverse lerp in this case. So what we want to do here is have the difficulty value is going to be equal to the, let's see here, we need the difference between the skills. Actually, no, easier way to do this. Between the min skill value and max skill value based on the blocker's, what is it, the pick difficulty. So what this is going to give us is a value between min and max based on the pick difficulty. No, that's not right. That's not right at all. No, I just need to do this, I think, by hand. So we take the pick difficulty. Gosh darn it. It's been just long enough since I've done this recently. And I need to recall this. While I think about it, Mental asked, what JSON C# library am I currently using? Currently, I'm using one... Crap. Where is it? Scripts. I thought I had one in here. It doesn't actually look like I'm using one right now. So usually I have one that's kind of a... I took one of the open source JSON libraries and I made a bunch of modifications to make it a lot more kosher with Unity, unfortunately. So I don't really have some like easy to download solution for you, unfortunately. Oh god, and I just, since I lost all the contents of my old hard drive, I actually don't have an easy way to grab a copy of it, I don't think. Otherwise, I'd like put it somewhere for you to download, or if you wanted to private message me, I might be able to send you the files. But I actually don't know if I even have them anymore. Let's see, do I have it here somewhere still? I hope so. Yeah, I'm not seeing it there. Nope, definitely not in there. Personal. Yeah, it's probably hiding here somewhere. I don't want to spend a ton of time on stream looking for that, especially with so little time I have left. But if you send me a private message, I'll see what I can do. I might be able to hunt down a copy that still exists. The problem is the most latest and up-to-date one was definitely on my hard disk. And my old hard disk is sitting in a trash can. So, oops. That's what I get for not backing up everything. I definitely lost some work. Yeah. Luckily, with 5.3, Unity is going so far as to actually release their JSON library. So honestly, I just wait for that, because something that's already built into Unity and is used by them is going to be pretty foolproof in terms of their implementation and the speed at which it runs. So 5.3, which I'm pretty sure is coming out in like a week or two, will have the answers that you're hunting for there. I don't know what the release date is on it. I'm actually trying to look that up for you real quick. Yeah, I can't really find much of anything. People are saying beginning of December. That might be a bit far out. Yeah. For a while I used, what was it? Oh, you know what? I know where I can find it. If I look at the asset store, I can tell you which one I at least had downloaded. Whoops, not what I meant to click on. I meant to click on that one. Let's see. Boom Lagoon. This is the one I was using for the longest time. Like I said, I made custom changes to it, but theirs was one of the better implementations that I saw. Are there any others here? The JSON object by Defective Studios wasn't so great. Yeah, I really wish I had that third one that I made changes to and essentially rewrote in certain spots. I was just not a fan of the way most people have done JSON parsers. And parsers are boring enough that a ton of people don't dive into it. Honestly, I should just make one and put it up so that people can use it. I'd probably want to do something lightweight, since at this point, the stuff that's out there is kind of not that great. At least from my experience. I tried downloading 5 or 6, and yeah, as you ran into, Mental, they're just kind of, they're alright, but they're not great. Some of them weren't even alright, so that's what you get. Okay. Let's see here. Minus the minimum. And then we divide it by the max skill value minus the min skill value. That should do the trick. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get the difficulty value, and I need to change this slightly. I'm going to clamp this between 0 and 1. And the reason I'm going to do this clamp is so that the star doesn't end up off the edge in either direction. We want to make sure that it matches up and that it fits. Let's see here. We're going to find child. From the lockpick window, it should be pretty straightforward to find the ability scroll bar / difficulty pointer. And having found it, we're going to do the type coercion to swap it into a rectangle transform. It essentially lets us access all of the rect transform bits and bobs from inside that variable. So this will be the difficulty transform. And I should be able to, from here, mess with the anchors. So the anchored position, set size with, no. I want to find the current anchors and just set them to 0. That is the information I want. Here we go. Anchor minimum. So, I need to remember how to do this, but float, no, the y is not going to be the same. It's the x that's going to be the same between the two. And the x is something we've already calculated. So what we should be able to say is new vector 2. The x is going to be this difficulty value, and the y is going to be the difficulty transform.anchormin.y. So we're keeping the old y value, and we're replacing the x value with our new difficulty value. See if that actually works. Okay, so not quite. It did change, and because it moved, that at least tells us that this should be pretty easy to finish, at least before I have to take off. Okay, the pick difficulty is 10. I'm just gonna do some pencil and paperwork here using this lovely Department of Commerce piece of mail that I got. Okay, so 10 minus, our minimum skill value is going to be 6, so that gives us 4. And then we're going to take 4 and divide it by the, ooh, no, that should be fine. 4 over 6. Yeah, no, that's not right. So what we should end up with, because 10 is between 6 and 12, we should end up with something that's closer to 0.5, I would think. Pick difficulty minus the skill value. Yeah, that is actually, that's pretty close to 0.5. 4 over 6, yeah, that should be fine. I'm actually just going to do a quick debug. Actually, no. Why am I doing this still? This is the much easier way to go about this, since I now have a debugger. Oh god, you see the text there? I can't go back to it at the moment, but that text is frightening looking. Difficulty value is 0, so it got clamped down to 0. 12 minus 6, so it should be dividing by 6. And 10 minus 6. Oh, you know what? It's because this is all integer math. There's our issue. Let's just turn one of these into a float, and that'll mess with the whole rest of the equation, bringing it all out to a float. Floating point numbers, luckily and unluckily, are somewhat, there we go, that looks correct. Floating point numbers are a little bit, what's the term I'm looking for? I think the term I'm going for is, I almost said addictive. I know that's not correct. It essentially is contagious, for lack of a better term. So what that means is that if you have a floating point number and you start doing mathematical operations on that floating point number, even if you're doing float and int, it's going to take that integer and convert it to a float and then do the floating point math. And each time you continue to do that, it's going to keep moving things to floating point. So all we had to do to get this to work was to take one of these numbers and do a floating point coercion. And once we said, okay, your floating point, now it's going to take this floating point number and say, well, I know I'm dividing it by an integer, but you can't do float divided by integer. You have to do float divided by float. Because if you tried to take that integer or that float and coerce it back into an integer, you might lose information. And that's the last thing you ever want to do as a compiler, is lose information. So, seems like we've got that taken care of. I do have to take off. It is raining, and I need to make sure that my car is waterproof for the most part. But thank you guys for joining me. I'll be back on tomorrow at the same time and place, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you want to make sure you don't miss anything, then follow me on either the stream, the follow button below, hit that, or you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is down in the stream description below. And I've been doing better about tweeting every time I'm about to go online. So if you add me there, you'll also see when I'm about to go online. Otherwise, thank you guys for joining me. It's been great to have you along. And hopefully you guys have a great day. I know for me, rain is awesome. So today's going to be pretty amazing. Maybe not the traffic, but everything else. Because rain is sweet.